Parliament are still peacefully protesting on the precinct as leaders and management meet behind closed doors. Staff affiliated to the trade union Nehawu are protesting over performance bonuses and better working conditions. Yesterday, protests turned chaotic for a while when police fired stun grenades to disperse the crowd. The union is demanding that 5% of members' annual package be paid as performance bonuses. Parliament is offering 25% of their monthly salary. Well, Parliament is about to hold a joint sitting of the National Assembly and National Council of Provinces. It will debate the 16 days of activism against the abuse of women and children. But outside the chamber, the strike of parliamentary workers continues. We go now to Parliament, to our reporter Bulelani Philip for the latest. Bulelani, we know that Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa will be in the National Assembly quite shortly, actually. With Nehawu members still campaigning outside, are we expecting any problems?
Well, good afternoon to you, Natasha, again. Basically, the National Assembly will be having its sitting any time from now, beginning at 2. But what we do know is that there hasn't been any disruptions of Parliament's operations this morning compared to yesterday when we saw these striking workers going around Parliament, disrupting some of the committee meetings. Of course, they are heeding a call that was made by the various political parties with regards to them not disrupting the operations of Parliament, because that would actually undermine their cause of trying to have Parliament actually hear their grievances. So at the moment, we haven't really seen any disruptions, as I've said, but what we do know is that the union leaders of the workers as well as the management were actually locked in meetings for the better part of the morning and early this afternoon, just a short while ago, where they came out of this building behind me where they were greeted with loud cheers and applause. And of course, those union leaders came back, having to give a report back on what was the outcome, if any, of the meeting that was held with the management. Of course, they've just entered into the old assembly building where they will be getting that comprehensive report. Of course, those will be the proposals that the workers would have to consider, and therefore what we do expect is that the union leadership will then go back and meet the management of Parliament after 3 to decide on whether that proposals that was made by Parliament is acceptable or not. But if it's not, the workers have said that they are going to continue to intensify their strike. Whether the outcome of that meeting will have any effect in terms of the operations of Parliament going on, that is something we remain to see. Now, earlier on, we did catch up with the Secretary to Parliament, Mr. Gengezi Mkidlana, just to get a sense of how this has affected Parliament and basically how the demands of the workers will affect Parliament. Our senior reporter Manelisi Dubas spoke to him earlier.
We have been meeting with the union since 10 o'clock, basically looking at various options and proposals on how we can move on this particular impasse. I must say the mood at the negotiation is a very positive one, where all parties are constructive, making inputs around the issues that are before us.
Any hope that you can resolve this issue as soon as possible, possibly today?
We are very hopeful that parties are going to be in a position to find each other. Of course, it will be a little bit difficult to put a timeline on that, but we have presented proposals to the union for them to consider, which they are thinking about it, and they will then come back to us.
Have they been giving you any indication? When are they coming back to you?
We are going to be resuming our negotiations at 3 o'clock this afternoon. They have taken time to look at the issues and ponder on them. And of course, on our side, also as management, we have taken time to really look at some of the issues that we have been talking about to see if we can find a resolution on the issues that are before us.
Secretary, this thing has been going on since last Friday. What are the consequences and the implications so far financially?
Well, on our part, we have a limited budget, a budget that is restricted, of course, by the appropriations that have been passed by Parliament. We are also guided by the Minister of Finance, who has placed considerations on state organs on how they should spend. So we are looking at basically making sure that we manage the finances of Parliament in a proper fashion. But in doing so, of course, we have to look at the various needs that are before us and consider those accordingly.
But I was meaning specifically the cost of the strike. I mean, it has implications, surely. I mean, you have cancelled some of the meetings, you have postponed others. I mean, you are having delegates who are supposed to come here. Have you counted the cost?
Well, in this instance, we have been able to have all the sittings that we needed to have. The sittings that were postponed and committee meetings that were postponed were not really due to lack of support in that regard. It was due to other reasons which are either political or operational in that regard. On our side, we're able to carry on with our business. You would have seen that the sitting of the National Council of Provinces took place, and that of the National Assembly took place also on Tuesday, Wednesday, and even today. So we're able to carry out with the limited support that we have the business of the House.
So there's been no implication whatsoever?
No, I'm not saying there's no implication. All I'm saying is we have reorganized our resources. We have made sure that management is deployed appropriately in the various posts in order to make sure that the business of the House and that of the committees continue. So we are able to provide that limited support to our business. Of course, the impact there too is that you don't have staff that you normally have in order to provide you with other forms and types of services. But what we can assure South Africa of, and what we can assure our members, is that their work is not going to be delayed necessarily because of this.
And finally, Parliament didn't suffer any costs as a result of this work stoppage?
Well, there are a number of costs that would occur in this regard because, of course, if there's engagement on a strike that is not protected and otherwise illegal, it then produces another consequence on the part of workers. On the part of Parliament, it simply means the costs are related to the operations, and at this instance we have been able to contain that in the sense that the business that we needed to have has occurred, except for those committees that were unfortunately disrupted by some members that are participating in the action.
Are you able to quantify the cost?
Well, in this regard, recall the issue that we are dealing with is that committee business will continue. Those committees will be rescheduled, so the legislation will be passed. The appropriations, the joint appropriations bill that needed to be dealt with will also be dealt with. So the setbacks that we have suffered are setbacks that we are going to be able to recover on those, because the committees will be rescheduled in that respect. And therefore, if you are talking about the direct cost there too, there is no direct cost to that, except for we have to reschedule those meetings that need to be held.
Take it on you.
Well, we will certainly be waiting for the outcome of this public meeting of these NEHAW members to see how they will accept these proposals that have been tabled by Parliament. And as we speak now, they are still getting the report back from their leaders, and they will definitely be keeping you updated in terms of the way forward. It's back to you, Natasha, in the studio.
Bulelani, thank you very much. Our reporter Bulelani Philip live from Parliament.